Benham and Sian Hedges, you come before me for sentence, having been guilty, after a trial at this court, of the murder of Alfie Phillips on the night of the 27th to 28th November 2020. The medical evidence shows that Alfie suffered a number of injuries some 36 to 72 hours before his death. These consisted of a number of relatively minor rib fractures, which were caused by excessive squeezing, and a fracture of a bone in his foot, almost certainly caused by someone deliberately standing on it. I am satisfied that these injuries were caused by you, Jack Benham, as a result of inappropriately rough or bad-tempered treatment of Alfie. These injuries were not life-threatening. The main assaults upon Alfie took place in the caravan during the night of the 27th to 28th of November 2020. A number of witnesses told the court that Alfie was well and in good spirits when he entered the caravan with the two of you in the early evening of the 27th of November. In the course of that night, Alfie sustained approximately 50 injuries from the assaults, pretty well all over his body. There were cuts, abrasions, bruises, hemorrhages, soft tissue injuries, and fractures. These included complete fractures of the radius and ulnar bones in his arms, just above both wrists. These were caused by a brutal combination of squeezing, gripping, and bending of Alfie's arms. The bones were described by the medical expert, Professor Mangum, as having been shattered by the force of the assault. As a small child's bones are resilient and pliable, it would have required a great deal of force to produce this result. Alfie also suffered the complete fracture of the tibia and fibula of his left leg. Again, the bone was shattered, and again this would have required the application of a great deal of force. Alfie suffered several fractures to bones in his feet, caused by crushing. Still further, Alfie's sternum was fractured, something that would have required a great deal of force to achieve, and he sustained several further fractures to his ribs, probably from crushing. Alfie sustained a number of serious injuries from blows that were directed at his face and his eyes. His head was gripped very tightly, which resulted in heavy bruising to much of his skull. A hand had roughly been placed over his mouth, smothering him, no doubt to stop his crying. This was done so violently that the frenulum, the skin between his upper lip and his nostrils, had been torn. Alfie was bitten hard several times on a number of different parts of his body, including his arm, his back, and one foot, in each case causing wounds, and in the latter case causing a fracture to his toe. These injuries were the result of what can only be described as a frenzied attack. It is impossible to be sure how long the attack lasted, but given the number of different injuries that were inflicted on Alfie, it must have lasted a considerable time. The injuries suffered by Alfie that night were so numerous and so serious that the medical experts were not able to say which of them had been the immediate cause of Alfie's death. I now come to the sentences. Stand up, please. Sian Hedges. For the murder of Alfie Phillips, I sentence you to imprisonment for life. Taking account of all of the factors that I've set out, the minimum term will be 19 years, minus 313 days to take account of the time spent on remand and qualifying curfew. Jack Benham. For the murder of Alfie Phillips, I sentence you to imprisonment for life. Taking account of all the factors that I have set out, the minimum term will be 23 years, minus 313 days to take account of time spent on remand. Take them down.